rough patch of change of guide and change of topic for extraneous reasons, and spent a whole of 11 years before he obtained his PhD. As I read this, I can relate to much of it through my own experience. There were many inflection points. One wrong step and months, if not years, could have got wasted in the wrong direction. I have tried to highlight from my memory most of my struggles I faced in my long walk from Varanasi to Amritsar. Now I need to unravel this Varanasi-Amritsar riddle. The first ever thing I learned is that the process is like a long winding walk from Varanasi, or if you like Kanyakumari, stop over at Allahabad, Agra, and so on, and until you reach the Golden Temple. Each stop is a milestone, consisting of many furlong stones, so to speak. Reading of this book can also be done selectively, as and when you get to progress to the section you're dealing with, and to address conflict situations as and when they arise. Reading can also be repeated, which will start making more sense as conflicts arise as and when progress is made. I have tried to pause at every stage and narrate how conflicts arose and how they got resolved. But let me assure you that reading just the 211 lessons in Appendix B at a single stroke is the surest way of learning nothing. The book has a friendly reading textbook format, an easy pricing, and a special launch price here today for you. Ms. Abhi here is in charge and will help you with it. Do add it to your library, even if you're an avid fiction reader. PhD is not merely an endpoint, but a vital starting point for research that identifies and fills gaps in the existing body of knowledge. Looking back, embarking on a PhD has enriched me in many ways. My mind, which was there before and after, I think are two different minds. It opened my eyes to many things I did not know about or consider seriously. It took me back to the basics that we all forget in course of time. It has also brought me the pleasure of standing before this august audience and sharing my thoughts today. Thank you all for this unique opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Ravichandran, for sharing the insights. I'm quite sure those who are sitting on the fence, whether to write or not to write, will jump and grab a copy of your book and start writing for the dissertation. Now I vote to Mr. Arun Kumar, for taking forward for a conversation. In the meanwhile, audience, if there are any question, please scan the QR code, send your question, and in another 10 minutes we'll go for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Group Captain Jay Kumar. Thank you, Dr. Ravichandran, for inviting me over and to moderate the session. And also, it's an honor for me to share the dais with students to solve. I have a set of questions drafted because I read through the book completely and cover to cover. And I thought I'll just pick up a lot of things from his speech also. And you said that they're going to act as a guide for people who are doing their PhD mid-career or even at a late stage of their career. So what parts of the book do you think they should concentrate, or what should be the quirks that they should be able to pick it up for, especially their specific skills, what you're looking for from this? They should be able to get.
I think if they are in business, I think they should read it cover to cover. See, when I talked about meeting Professor Kamakoti, and you'll be surprised, he told the class that at least 100 of the 211 lessons are applicable to him when he did his PhD. So if a technology leader like him found 100 of these 211 lessons relevant, and since this is targeted to business people, mid-career professionals for an industry, I would say through the entire thing.
Okay.
So I hope it.
Yeah, I also partly agree with that because when I was reading the book, I was able to resonate with my own experience of doing a meet. In fact, at ISC. In fact, at the end of 2 years, my guide left and the institute. So I had to really restart all over again and everything. So I could sort of resonate most of it. That's why I just asked you that. What part of it would be?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I would request both Mr. Bhaskar as well as Sandharam to come.
No, it's not just for research scholars. We have a research center in IIT Madras Research Park, and we have 60 PhDs there. And soon after reading your book, and there was a fairly sophisticated work that they were doing. So what I did was, I was just going through your chapters. I said, what is your research objective? What's your research methodology? What questions are you trying to answer? So, they were kind of looked at me with a completely different thing. And then, seriously, and I think, no, it's not that, because we were really doing something very complex. And we just found that our researchers were just going all over the place. And this was a 4-year project on a new product and a new solution that we're trying to introduce. And when I went back, and I just found that those basic questions that have you done the literature survey? What is it saying? Where are the competitors in this area? Frankly, I use this. So therefore, it's not just for budding research scholars. I think we are talking about a lot of innovation in companies, and I think we are talking about R&D percentage in India going up from whatever percentages to a higher level. I think all of us are making efforts. But for leaders to understand this process is really useful. So running through this, it is not necessarily that it's only for those who are going to be doing a PhD. That's really my take on this.
Yeah, I just will add to what Santhanam said. For me, it started with, this, we are woefully disrespectful of the industry-academy relationship. I'm not saying disrespectful, but it has not been celebrated sufficiently. And somewhere we are suffering on account of that. Now, whether it is the German and US model of education or whatever the Chinese are doing, I don't know, or the Japanese, the rigor and the depth of a subject which only academia can achieve, and transferring that to industry has not happened to the extent. And I know IIT Madras Research Park is doing work in that direction, but the academic part of the IITs, still the relationship is not. And therefore, for me, if more PhDs come out and we are able, as in industry, able to absorb them, get their expertise. One is as a process, the other is the subject itself. I mean, your CPE as an index, really impressive. I mean, that, we celebrate. I mean, I know in Titan we celebrate, we do this measurement of brand equity and all that. But I know I myself begin to criticize the research methodology and say, this is playing to the galleries. Every company will say their brand is number one. They, in some measure, in this small segment, they are number one. So that rigor that you apply, for me, those two, industry and academia, is important.
Yes, Aman, I'm going to pick up the next question from there. Because normally the perception in the industry, of course, I worked in the industry too, and my immediate reporting was, I was the first PhD reporting by was. So his perception is, PhD is like a consulting report. That is akin to a consulting report. That is the basic perception. How are you able to sort of overcome that and then get it? Because a PhD is a completely different animal. It's a different journey.
You'll be surprised. 3 decades back, the famous Professor Tirunarayan, he was our consultant. So he looked at my corporate plan for TVS Motors and said, Ravi, this is more than 50% of a PhD. So the ego boosting has been happening from those times. So we guys are meant to think that, if you do good research in your industry or consulting and, you come up with some models and stuff like that, you are entitled. So this entitled feeling of industry people that, okay, a PhD, okay, one year you write it and then absolutely wrong. In fact, Professor Rao, who I mentioned in my book, first said PhD is a starting point of research. Santanam quoted this several times in his speech.
Yes.
It's a starting point of research. At 60, it was a humbling experience. I had to shed all my ego, put everything in a bundle, keep it away. In fact, you'll be surprised. First, I thought I'll do research between China and India. I said I'll make a big point about China and India. Then he said, you got to choose a simple subject, focus, narrow the focus, and carry on. So again, one more humbling experience. So it's a very relevant question. It is absolutely not true. The process is new. The process is robust. It's like making men out of boys, so to speak.
True.
I think.
If you can add to it.
Yeah,
I don't know how much you agree with the statement, but that is my perception, at least from what I've seen.
I can resonate with it in a way that unfortunately research, starting from market research and other research as well, has fallen into a superficiality which again I'm saying is playing in the audience. Okay? And I'm kind of self-flagellating in that sense in this. But the value of real in-depth work, I guess it has to, like he said, I worked with one company, on the board of one company, it's German, 8% of turnover on an 82 billion euro turnover annually, close to i-radiolive. Okay? Now, it is a commitment in a way, and the outcome of that from economics today is even measurable. But the work that they do is fundamental. Therefore, the respect has to come from somewhere else, from the top, and we have not achieved that in this country. And as you said, we have unfortunately dismissed as consultant.
Maybe that was a very strong statement, but that was a usual perception, I thought.
And I think there is a shift that is taking place in India. There are two things which are happening, trends in the world that I see since I represent a large multinational. One is the quality of engineering talent that is moving into non-tech companies. When we say tech companies, it is really the ICT. Non-tech companies in US and in Europe is pathetic today. You won't realize how little real talent people are coming. So that is a huge opportunity for India to leapfrog. So therefore I see a tremendous amount of opportunity. The second one is the global capability centers have dramatically transformed the research capability in India. I think today there are about 1,700 global capability centers. At least about 1/3 of them are focusing on engineering and R&D out of India. And for instance, in Chennai today, you have Renault Nissan, which has got 10,000 people doing R&D in product development and many of the engineering and others. So what is suddenly there is a shift in India towards research and development, largely induced by the availability of talent at optimal cost and the shortage of such talent coming into our kind of industries which are not tech. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity. So what I see what Ravi has thrown is the ideas that Ravi has talked about are actually relevant for industries. Because if the industry leaders understand there is deep immersion is required, you need a certain systematic processes. And even though we have recruited 70 or 80 researchers in our research center in Chennai, when I went and asked them all of these questions, thanks to the lessons learned from, I used to read this and they used to look at me. So what is it that you are suddenly waking up to something new? I think it's an incredible opportunity for India. So I see it as a great opportunity, and I've seen this happening in China in a very big way. I think India has got this possibility. I hope that Ravi's book is seen in a larger light than motivating a bunch of people who are willing to do a PhD. Of course, it's going to do a great job. They will help those 12%, right? 12% of the people who enroll become a PhD. I hope that number goes up, but more importantly, I think corporates can play a very important role looking at the methodology and seeing how that can be applied to their own R&D efforts.
Thank you. I think I want to pick up the next question from your side. You said at the age of 60, it was a very humbling experience. Normally, doing a PhD itself is a very difficult experience. Mid-career, very difficult. You are doing it towards the fag end of your corporate career. I mean, it would be an understatement if I say it was a challenge, right? It was something much more than that. So what are the kind of changes that you were sort of visualizing, and how do you have to sort of transform mentally to sort of undertake this journey itself? I mean, in short, what are the motivation? Of course, yes, yeah.
Actually, okay, due respects, I'd rather that the entire thing is something which will benefit as a first person to a second person. The book is about dialogue from me, first person, to the intending people. Because, for instance, when I was in that interview, the dean, who was 5 years younger than me, looked at me and said, Mr. Ravichandran, what's your career objective? I said, sir, he was chuckling and smiling. I too smiled. I said, for me, I'm pretty content with what I've got in my life. I said, for me, the means and the end are one and the same. So the smile widened, the grin widened. So why I'm saying this is that the entire book is structured in such a way that a person like me, who approaches with zero stakes, so to speak, is relating a story so that people who are actually, people have stakes, they need a career, they are doing it for a purpose. So I want them to benefit from these 211 lessons. Do not shortcut the whole thing. Don't read Appendix B and say, oh, okay, we know all this. Right? So my motivation, if you look at it, even though it's a very specific thing, I don't know how relevant it is, but however...
For doing a PhD itself.
Yeah, I'll tell you. See, there are 2 times in my life when I wanted to do a PhD and I couldn't. So, like, in the year 1994, I had almost shifted academics. I landed the top job a marketing job in Bajaj Auto. So that was obvious. Then I shifted and I went back into industry. Then again in 2001, I got the TTK chair professor in your dorms of marketing management. I shifted to Crompton Greaves to manage the consumer businesses. So therefore, this restlessness of an industry never ceases. So when all restlessness ceased, I said, this is the time to do it. But to be frank, even that is not a proper explanation. This kind of a crazy thing called PhD, to do it, none of these are explanations. I mean, it is something which has come from deep within. In fact, Ravi, who's my good friend, is sitting there. We were walking in Anna Nagar, saying, why do you want to get into this? You talked about people who discourage me. He is one of those.
I thought he agreed. I thought he encouraged you to write a book.
4 decades ago. Yeah. So therefore he said, Ravi, why do you do this? And normally my personality is, when somebody likes it, tells him, I'll immediately follow. But in this case, I didn't. So why I'm saying this is that one of the important lessons I have given to the people who read this book is that the motivation has to come from deep within. When once somebody wants to do this, there is no looking back. So the preparation, mental preparation, is the reason why the percentage is low. People come with several reasons to do a PhD. So examine your reasons and decide that this is what I want to do. I think that's the message.
Yes, the motivation is fine, but when you said that you had also done some coursework, 12 examinations, etc. Most of your peers would have been in their 20s, fresh PhDs. I mean, you would hardly find people who are mid-career or late career, certainly not in the late stage of their career. I mean, there would be sort of resistance both sides, right? I mean, a 20-year-old will not want to sort of interact with you much.
We are at IIT IIM Mafia. You should visit our Golden Jubilee meet now and just see the way the guys behave, okay? So for that matter, somewhere. So we'll put all youngsters to shame, right? To be frank, I'm thinking of it only when we are asking me now. Nobody made me feel like that. Even today, they are in touch with me. They try to ask me questions about Ravi sir, how to do it, this, that, etc., etc. So therefore, I think I didn't have that issue. So
That's fantastic, I think. Well, let's come to your PhD journey itself. I mean, you identified AMU, and before that, you did a lot of groundwork. You were sort of trying to work on a PhD with Hyderabad and other places. I mean, this entire thing would have been a little, PhD itself could be, as you said, frustrating experience in between. So a lot of people go through ups and downs during a PhD. So, I mean, given your high-flying corporate career and other things, how come you are not getting frustrated? How come you did decide to pursue it, not sort of give up and go on?
see, in my 6 years, 4 was productive and 2 was unproductive. 1 whole year went into this process of choosing the right institution. So I wasted a lot of time in that. So, in fact, the reason how I shifted is also because I had a bad experience. I have related that in my book in great detail. What was that bad experience? And one of the learning points is a bad experience is often an indication that something better is going to come. It's a very, very important in a lesson in life. And so 1 year went in this process of identifying the right fit. As they also said, the wrong guide, the reluctant guide, and so on and so forth.
True.
So 1 whole year went in that process. The thing is that if you see the whole point of saying that, how did you pursue that further, is to be done by reading the book. It is not something that can be stated so as an obvious thing. I don't know if I'm in sync with your question.
Yeah.
Was that the intent in your question? Or?
True, same. I mean, how was that experience not frustrating? That is what. How come how are you able to overcome that and then still keep towards your goal, pursue your goal?
That's what. So therefore, there are several points like this where you will get frustrated. So if your motivation is deep enough, you take them as stumbling blocks. As I said, bad experience leads to something much better. If you have that philosophy, I think you'll be able to.
Sure. Great. I think let's take the question for Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt.
Thank you for that very insightful question. It is a subject which is close to my heart, but certainly is close to Titan's heart. Just to give you a background, most of you would have viewed Titan through its wonderful stores, the great advertising, some of the good products, stylish, etc. But what goes behind Titan, in fact, it's a Tamil Nadu-based company of manufacturing. Titan is very, very deep into manufacturing. Now, I don't want to jump the gun and say companies who are in manufacturing do better R&D than companies. See, today the problem, one of the problems with this, the other side of the coin of this question is, India is so full of opportunity that, and in this world of apps and quick fix solutions, you can actually put together a product, any kind of product, even a very high tech, let's say wearable watch or a wearable device or a consumer durable, without knowing what is inside that product. That is, the rigor that a company like Titan applies, whether it makes a watch or a piece of jewelry or lens or even a sari, it is a DNA of the company. That is what the company calls itself as category expertise rather than a retailer. Let me explain to you. If you go to a retailer like a Chroma or a Westside, I'm taking my own group's companies so that there is no, D-Mart, the celebrated, high market cap retailer. They are traders. They are traders and we love their products, but they don't know what goes to making a better phone in Chroma or a better washing machine that Chroma sells, it is a ring. And that has triggered the economy, has made it grow, and therefore what we used to call fundamentals of physics and chemistry and maths is lost in that. Therefore, Titan's innovation, let me give you the latest from the Titan's table, which is much after I retired, but the passion continues irrespective of who's there. The mechanical watch that has been put out in the market, I think it's sitting at 30 lakhs. It's a tourbillon. Yeah, it's called a tourbillon. Okay. Now the manufacturers across the world make a tourbillon. Now tourbillon, Titan could have outsourced completely. But Titan has gone into the depth of, and Titan is a quartz watch maker, 18 million quartz watches, and this is not even 50, 60 of those. So that passion of going in depth into a product, that is when you then discover more and more ways of improving the quality of a product. Not just where the market is, what design sells, rather than how can you make a good product. Therefore, that innovation which comes later, for example, we were one of the first to get into the IIT Madras research park. Small outfit because we make small product, but we were the early ones, and all the questions, the model is very simple. The marketing, which is the more celebrated function in Titan, the marketing and the retail one. The questions that they have, that is, customer is asking for better plating. I'll tell you, because they want a guarantee on the gold plating of a watch. Titan used to do gold plating 100 years back, 30 years back. And it was the R&D guys who came back with the physical vapor deposition process, which is it was at that time a big breakthrough. But much later, the carat meter for the jewelry business to be able to, for the customer to be able to measure the caratage of her, this all came from manufacturing. It's not a marketing innovation at all. It's turned out to be, latest one is diamond.
The latest one is on LGD, natural diamonds versus artificial diamond. And also another very interesting research output is how do you really measure the brilliance of a diamond? We have the 4 C's. How do we really look at it very differently?
So, now I think Titan has found the value of doing this and going there, but it comes from wanting to make your own product, wanting to be confident of what you're selling, whether you're selling a lens, to be able to understand, to give confidence to the customer that we make our own lenses. Jewelry, it is the biggest outsourced industry in this country. Largest number of vendors. Titan knows how to make a piece of jewelry, we make our own, but not 100%. So it starts with, that is the process in Titan, the questions that customers have, how can we solve for that, and then it goes back into R&D. And there's a handshake between aesthetic design, engineering design, manufacturing. If that handshake happens beautifully, then you have an economic output which is really extraordinary. The Edge watch. I can go on and on. That's my passion.
Next question for you, Vasanta.
The next question. Actually, I'm quite happy about the progress that has been made in the last 10 years in IIT Madras Research Park. There are 2 parts to it. One is really the deep connect with the IIT labs and the IIT professors, and really purposeful research and leveraging the IIT Madras analytical capabilities. The second one is really leveraging the students who are really pursuing. More importantly, a large number of we recruit a lot of people who are masters. I think IIT Madras has a very nice program to do a PhD for the masters working in our areas, very highly relevant. And I think there's a tremendous amount of improvement that has taken place. In my opinion, IIT Madras is Maybe because I'm a student of IIT Madras, I don't know whether the other IITians are present here. But IIT Madras is is ahead of the curve compared to probably IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay and IIT Kharagpur in these particular areas, where I think there is a very strong collaboration between industry and this. And I'll just give an example. Today we are doing some very sophisticated modeling of large furnaces where we melt glass. A lot of the data analytics that is going into it comes from the data science group in IIT Madras, and they work very closely with our data science group, plus the thermal modeling of a furnace melting glass at 1600 degrees. So there's a tremendous amount of collaborative work that is going on now. In the past, it was very difficult to collaborate with academicians because their interest is deep work and not agile work. Whereas companies require agile work and sometimes we're not deep enough. I think we have become deeper and IIT Madras and academicians have become more agile. I think this is a transition that is taking place. I'm positive about it. And as I said before, I think large companies like Bosch or Saint-Gobain in India or many other companies are actually having this global capability center which are really moving towards R&D and ownership of the entire platforms now for development and others. I think more and more research, more and more collaboration between IITs, IIScs, NITs and some other companies, some other people like SRM, BIT and many others are likely to happen. So I see this in a positive way.
Very true, because in the last 15 years I've been seeing a lot of transformation in terms of more of applied work coming in applied research coming in. And here, I think I'll take that question a little later because that question will sort of,
Professor, you can take the question. We got a lot of questions. I'll show the questions. Can you have it a rapid fire? You can answer quickly so that I can accommodate as many questions as possible. For you, sir.
I'll take the question.
All 1 minute answer, please.
Because I think most of the answers what Dr. Ravichandran would give would address that, and then we'll come back to it.
Yeah. Next question, please.
I think I have one or two more questions to Dr. Ravichandran.
Time. You have to take the flight.
Audience, yeah.
You have to catch the flight. Yeah, quickly. This is a question come from the audience. With ChatGPT and other such tools has made review of literature briefs as it speeded up the shrunk in the time to acquire a PhD now than what used to be 5 years ago. But this can be answered only by people who use ChatGPT. But anyone, sir?
I don't think so. I don't think so because ChatGPT just gives the format. That's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Because most of the things what we can cost check it and it's from ChatGPT. So ChatGPT doesn't give a very authentic one, I think.
Please, sir.
There is something which surprised me and I was always worried about it. There is a thing called plagiarism index. And I think he talked about that it should be less than 10%. And he had a lot of difficulty because he had used a lot of words which are available in the public spaces. We had to bring it down from 14 to 10, right? It took a lot of time. So therefore, I don't think ChatGPT will be that useful in helping you write your PhD dissertation.
Because today plagiarism check is one of the mandatory things that is requested for a PhD.
So we'll take last two questions.
Yeah.
How doing a PhD in India is different from doing a university in USA? Same. Anybody? Nothing much, sir? Yeah, nothing much.
I think doing good PhD in India is as difficult as doing good PhD in anywhere else. Or doing rigor-wise, I think doing a good PhD, I think the rigor-wise is not very different at all.
To Dr. Ravichandran, sir.
You want to answer?
Yeah. There's a question to Dr. Ravichandran.
I'll on top of the list is data. See, in India, data is a very big challenge. So therefore, I think I went all over. You see, first I had hired somebody to do some questionnaire work for me. But soon I realized that that person was not a master of his craft. Very painful realization. So then there is one person who is unfortunately missing in the audience. She opened me to that. She said, sir, you can yourself do your data analysis. Oh, that was a turning point, actually. Biggest learning lesson for me. You got to be the master of your own data. I think that was a big challenge, big turning point. The other big challenge I had was right at the end of my data analysis. I got stuck in what is called mediation analysis. It's a technical thing, I'll make it very quick. So the master who taught me probably did not understand the subject very well. I don't want to talk much about it in an open forum. Then somebody opened my eyes to saying that I'm not doing the thing, that the mediation analysis the way it should be done. And then came the YouTube. That was the other unexpected challenge. I must have gone through hundreds of YouTubes, gone all over the place. Finally, I identified a 13-minute clip, which gave me the complete solution to how to do that analysis. And you know, the entire results and everything else fell in place. So these are two. I think the third, the third actually is to identify, I would say identifying the institution and the guide. These are all sensitive subjects. Getting the correct guide and networking is another very important thing that you need to prioritize in terms of doing your.
Thank you, sir. Professor, final question from you. Then I request Mali to please come on to stage.
I think
Mali, sir.
MLC wanted to.
No, 1 minute, sir, because you have to go to the air.
At the outset, I compliment MMA for organizing this wonderful event. I'm also just travel like Dr. Ravichandran, but I seen here there is a thirst among Indian industries. Moving from academic to industry, industry to academic. Industry to academic is very, very difficult. When the country is moving towards a $5 trillion economy, 1,200 universities, I recommend this dissertation book should be a ready reckoner for all the universities. I think that's only my wish. Why? Because I am from the maritime industry. I travel almost all the ports across the globe. 37 years leadership experience. I did my PhD last 7 years travel. This is something similar what Mr. Dr. Ravichandran has gone through. Academics should take this as a smart guide for them. The success rate, it's not going to be the 12%, it should be tripled in the future years. I wish that. Yes, this has one capsule with all medicines put together, and this can be a ready to eat stuff. I would say, I thank him for taking this kind of time and energy to bring it to this level, and not only for India, it will be for the global reference. Yes, doing PhD is difficult. Bringing how to do the PhD itself, it's a very challenging that itself. For that only one thing is needed. Mental stamina. 11359. You see, he's not carrying any books. He is only a marathoner. A marathoner can do, I am a avid cyclist. Kashmir to Kanyakumari, similar, he Varanasi to Amritsar. You need to have a mental stamina to do the PhD. Please equip yourself. That's all. Thank you so much.